Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're in the right place at the right time. Today is Thursday and it's 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I just want to welcome you guys to the show. We're going to have a very interesting broadcast today. If you follow us, you never know what you might see and what might happen when you show up to this show each and every time you show up. So I'm going to, at this time, bring in my brother in broadcasting, Mr. Chris Bass. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a while since I'm on this side of the program, to be a panelist, but it's more than my honor to be here. How you doing, Dr. Ron?
Man, I am thoroughly confused, but we're going to make it do what it do, brother. Yep,
Absolutely.
definitely. You know, right now I'm going to also bring in another one of our broadcasters, Mr. Buck Wild. Uh-oh.
Notice I'm wild again.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
You notice that? I'm
Yeah,
wild,
yeah.
not wheezy anymore.
There you go. That's good.
I lost the wheezy.
You lost the wheezy? Okay.
Well, you know what? I was watching Chris Bass's show the other day on Facebook, and he said, formerly Buck Wild, and now is Wheezy. I don't know whatever happened to that. So I said, okay, you know what? Okay. I will go back to Buck Wild.
Well, thank you. No, that's how I recognize you. The whole Wheezy still kind of threw me off guard. I was thinking about the Jeffersons at one point. So, but Buck Wild is who you are, man.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's so interesting because last week he was, I called him Buck Less, L-E-S. All he needed was an accent over the S, and it could have been Buck Less. Okay. Anyway,
yeah, I said it's because he didn't have his glasses on, or maybe he did. He needs new glasses. Old folks never go to the eye doctor. I don't need no new glasses. I've had this 20 years.
Yeah,
fine for 20 years.
Yeah. Well, I was just trying to give you a little, flair, little something with the accent on it, like Buck Less, But anyway. Look, before we get going too good here, I want to invite you all to call into the conversation.
Oh, you know what? The callers, the number's not working tonight for some reason. I've been working on it. That's why I'm a little bit late.
Okay.
We're gonna work on it though and get it figured out. It's technical. It's very
do
technical.
not call in on the number that you just saw appear on the screen. Do not call in because the phone is not working. But we were gonna try and get it in for you guys. Once again, we'll get it back. Don't be afraid. It'll come back. So we've got a lot of interesting things going on the show tonight. Our fearless leader is not here yet. He's on the way. He threatened to show up, so we don't know if he's actually going to do it or not. But he's usually on assignment of some type. Professor is definitely out on assignment tonight. He was not able to make it tonight. And we have not heard from Mike Love yet. So he's probably on his way, to joining us on the show, or he's in the kitchen right now getting his dinner out the way before he joins us. Either way, he'll show up eventually. Yes, sir.
Or picking it out of his teeth, like
that
he likes
too.
to do.
Yeah, that too. That's another thing old people like to do, pick our teeth because, dentistry costs a whole lot of money, brother.
A friend of mine says she watched last week. She says, when that Negro said he was going to pick his food out of his teeth and show it on camera, she said, I couldn't watch anymore after that. That was gross.
Yeah.
I was like,
well,
maybe it was a little gross.
We are a gross show now. So she was right where she needed to be. So look, we have an interesting guest waiting in the wings that we're going to get to in the next segment. So let's get to the first segment. Chris is going to be talking to us about contracts and friends. Contracts and friends. Take it away, Mr. Bass.
Thank you, Dr. Ron. So for those of you who watch live with, what's her name, Kelly and Ryan, I don't know why you watch it, but that's your thing. Yes, sir.
A friend of mine and a former coworker is the announcer for that show, Deja Vu.
Oh,
We
cool.
started together. She started her career out in the station I was working at in Jacksonville, so I've known her since 1995. She's awesome.
Great voice. Great voice. I give her that. That's probably the only thing I'll probably listen to. Then I'll cut it off after that. So, so Kelly Ripa is hawking a new book called Live Wire, and so she's been making the rounds on various talk shows, but she conveniently left out Michael Strahan in the book. Now, for those of you who followed back in the day, back in 2016, she boycotted the show for 4 days in lieu of what she heard about Michael Strahan making the move to Good Morning America. Now, once again, that's conveniently left out of the book. Now, when this happened in real time and she gets mad and leaves, now all of us on this panel have worked in broadcasting, continue to work in broadcasting, and of course, deal with contracts. So he was bound not to say anything to her or anybody. That's how contracts go. You got to wait till all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. In this promotion, it was a very high profile, so you have to wait for all the PR to get together. And she was pissed and decided to leave the show for 4 days. And so as she's making the rounds to hawk this book, she appears on CBS This Morning with Gayle King for an exclusive interview about the book. But she did not appear on Good Morning America, of course, which is co-hosted by Michael Strahan.
Michael Strahan.
Right. And Disney ABC, of course, produces Live and, of course, Good Morning America. So you would think that you would keep them, some of the promotion with the book in-house, but she did not. So I'll be the first to admit, I don't see anything talented about Kelly Ripa. I'd rather watch paint dry, and I'll get more satisfaction watching paint dry than Kelly Ripa. She's not really that talented as far as I'm concerned. And from the standpoint of how she reacted in 2016, made no sense. Why you get mad at somebody for not telling you? Because when she came back on the show, she ranted about having respect for someone and making sure your friends and everything else. So the thing about it is, when you're bound by contract, you can't say anything. The non-disclosure. You can't say anything. So you're in the same business as your colleague is, yet you get upset. And so now she's talking the book, and once again, conveniently left out Michael Strahan. If you're in a situation, just talking to the panel and to the audience, you want to chime in the comment section, would you tell your friend about you moving to the next plateau, or would you keep it to yourself? I know one thing, I wouldn't say a damn thing.
Yeah.
To Buck Wild.
I've been in that. By the way, Reg.
There you go. I was just getting ready to say.
Oh, good. Hey, what's up, Professor?
Professor is in the house.
Hello.
How you feeling? How you feeling?
With my hands.
With my fingers.
Thank you for joining us, sir. Yeah. All right.
Okay. So I've been in that situation before. When I got the job to go to Dallas from Birmingham, Dallas, they had somebody still in place there, and they hadn't let him go yet. So they were like, you can't say anything because, this guy's still here, and that would cause a lot of problems and blah, blah, blah. So I couldn't tell anybody until my last day on the air in Birmingham.
Right.
And they were all shocked and disappointed, of course, because I tried to get the station to hire the whole crew, and they were like, no, we already have people in place. We just want you. And that was it. And that sucked. And that was a big mistake on my part because, your team is your team, and, thanks, Ron.
No,
but yeah, so I couldn't say that. I couldn't say anything to them, and I wanted to really badly.
Yeah. Well, I got a question because I'm not a big fan of the show. Was there anything going on between Mike and Kelly?
See, that came with a conversation too. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That don't mean nothing.
But, he's a single black man in Hollywood or New York or wherever they're kicking it at. So, whatever goes on, she might have brought him home for dinner and he stayed for breakfast a couple of times. You never know.
She's married. She could.
And so, you act like marriage is going to stop you from, doing anything freaky in the bedroom.
Yeah, it does sound a little
suspect.
Yeah,
because
because her
she's
attitude, yeah, that's crazy.
hey, and you know what? See, I kind of think she's got a cute little personality. I mean, they don't be talking about shit, but
Right.
I mean, and that's really the bottom line. Their content's not the greatest, but she's compared to Ryan Seacrest, she's a live wire. She's the best thing since sliced bread because he's so boring, it's ridiculous.
No, he is.
But you know what? America loves him because he's a pretty boy, white boy that is generic. He's not offensive. And, he's got this all-American look, all-American vibe about him, which, I'm not mad at. I'm not mad at. This is America. Yeah, this is America. It's white America. And, and I was really surprised back in the day. Were we not all surprised when they hired Michael Strahan for that job?
I was surprised.
First place? We were all surprised. Like, a brother Regis would be rolling over in his grave, and he wasn't even dead yet.
Well, I think Regis would be cool with it. I think what I thought when they did the auditions that NBC's Seth Meyers would get the gig. I thought he was, in place because he had a good showing during that time. No offense to Michael Strahan. I was like, ain't no way gonna hire a brother.
Right, I said the same thing.
Right, but they did.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, who could really replace Regis? I mean, nobody could. Regis was one of the most talented people on television for 100 years.
His show to begin with, wasn't it?
Yeah, Regis and Kathy Lee.
Yeah, it started off locally in Los Angeles and then went national years later after that.
Yeah, because she's acting a little bit scorned. That's the reason why I would want to see, is there something behind the scenes that's causing her to act like she, really was all bent out of shape? But
you can tell she's a little firecracker anyway, though, can't you?
True.
She's feisty.
Yeah, if it wasn't anything going on between them, doing the mattress mambo, it seemed as though that it pretty much sounded like jealousy. Because if I didn't know anybody, it sounded like more jealousy than anything else, that she probably was waiting to use live the show as a springboard into a next trajectory of her career, and it never happened. Here comes Michael Strahan, 4 years, and he's on Good Morning America.
But she makes more than him. She makes more than everybody on Good Morning America. She's like one of the highest paid people in TV.
True, but maybe not happy in that position. Once again, we just speculating because maybe she has vision of grandeur for herself. They just now gave her a game show on ABC recently. But prior to that, she was just on live, and that was it.
Kelly Ripa salary. Let's see. Salary. I might be wrong on that. I know she's making more than him, though. More than Strahan.
It's a ripper, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Come on, phone. Search.
But I'm telling you, if I had the choice,
she makes $22 million a year. What?
Then what are you beefing about? You're like, shut up and take the money.
22.
Well, she's making $20 million in 2016 though.
I don't know.
Right,
Seacrest only makes $10
a lot
million.
of money.
She makes double what Seacrest makes.
Okay, well, there you go.
Well, she took over the show in name, right?
Yeah.
After Regis retired, or Regis was forced out.
Yeah.
Was he forced out?
I had people that worked at ABC. The rumor was he was forced out. I mean, he still wanted to work, and they wanted to skew young, and they wanted to get rid of the old guy, so they kicked him out and told him to be quiet for a little bit, and then go from there.
I could see that. Michael, let's see what Strahan's salary is. Michael Stray.
So is that
still? He doesn't even need money. He doesn't even need money. I mean, his NFL money was so long.
Right.
Is this still a top-rated morning show? Would you say it is, or it isn't, or?
Oh yeah. Oh, Strahan's at 17 million, not far behind. It's only 5 million behind. Although the damn shame is that Lester Holt is still making $4 million a year.
Lester Holt needs a new agent. Yeah, he should be making way more than that, Doctor.
Maybe he's making more now, but that's when he first took over.
When he first started, okay. Maybe
because they had to still pay Brian Williams. They didn't cut Brian Williams' salary. He just went over to MSNBC, same money.
Yeah,
like, that's jacked up.
He just now left recently with Brian Williams over to MSNBC. Yeah,
but you know what though? He lied, but I love Brian Williams. Man, he was great. I don't love him more than Lester Holt, and Lester Holt's, by the way, from my hometown, Bay Area. Okay, sorry. Bay Area, he's a Bay boy.
So the question is that still a top rated morning show that Ripa's on?
Yes and no. I mean, it's not considered. It's a morning show, but it's really more of a midday show because 9 o'clock really starts middays. So they they do well ratings wise, as far as I know.
Okay.
But what other competition do they have? They have the third. Oh, you know what? The third hour of
Today show.
Yeah, I bet you they're whipping their ass though.
I hope so.
Yeah, morning ratings. Let's look that up too.
Okay, great.
Yes. Morning shows ratings. It's not always easy to find accurate data on that.
Yeah. Okay. I know in that slot years and years ago, Oprah was on that slot, right? 9 a.m. So
Oprah was syndicated, so she was on at different times of the day. She wasn't on the same at every
place. So but that would be like the lion's share of people would look for. So what would people look for now if it's not their show? Who would be the morning show that people would go after?
Well, I think the scope of everything's. Let me cut you off, Buck. I think the scope of everything's changed because now it's TV or content the way you like it. You don't have to worry about being at 9 a.m. for something. You can always go online and just look for stuff time-wise to your discretion. So it could be anything. It doesn't have to be a traditional morning show or traditional anything. Everything's unconventional and non-traditional these days.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm guessing it's that Kelly and Ryan are doing well because Good Morning America is the #1 morning show. So they're always right after Good Morning America.
Great lead in.
Yeah, they've got all this audience built in that's just there,
Right.
But they're so dry. And you know what? I'm like, if that's what it takes to win, just sit around and talk about your day and just shoot the shit. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, anybody could do that. Not anybody, but there's really not a whole lot to it. But like I said, I think Kelly Ripa is she's got one of the best personalities to me. Their content is just whack.
Yeah. She's whacked all the way around, but it's just my personal preference. And again, I used to watch for Regis when she was with him. No offense, I think Regis, of course, well, I said before, Regis started the show locally in Los Angeles, and then went nationally syndicated. And before that, this man was the sidekick to Joey Bishop on the old Joey Bishop show back on ABC, the late night talk show. He was his sidekick, this guy named Joey Bishop. He was part of the Rat Pack with Frank Sinatra and them. So Joey Bishop was a comedian.
That was more of a variety show, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, it was a variety talk show because again, everybody was going after Carson during this time when Johnny Carson became the king of late night star in the late 60s. So they had all these various. There you go, right. Right. So
but you know what?
Was going after Carson. Yeah, go ahead, Buck.
This is going to be a very unpopular opinion. So I'm going to say
That's
it,
all right.
and you guys are going to think that I'm hating when I say it.
No.
I can't stand Michael Strahan because of that big ass gap in front of his teeth.
He's making more money than all of us combined, and then
he is. But
he's the Gap Band, but he's doing pretty well. He's doing
that big gap, bro. I was like, I want to kick a field goal every time I see it.
And look, and that gap was the brunt of a April Fool's joke a few years back. Y'all remember that?
When he fixed it,
yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. He threw that out there, and at the end of the day, like, nah, it's still here. Now let me ask you a question. Since we're talking about, shows, talk shows, things of that nature, there's a new show on the horizon, the Jennifer Hudson show, J Hud. What do you guys think about that?
I love her, but I'm like, that means they're going to give anybody a talk. Eventually, that's what it's going to be with talk shows. Nothing but celebrities who couldn't do nothing else or didn't do anything else. Like, what's her name? What's the name of the white girl actress? Now she got a talk show. Real Valley girl, talking girl. You know what I'm talking about. Actress.
Are you about Drew Barrymore?
Drew, yeah. It's like, really, Drew?
So you don't think J Hud is just as good as Drew or better or same thing as?
What do you think, Professor? You don't watch it.
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it either. I don't know.
Yeah.
And as much as I love J Hud because she's so fine, but I don't necessarily want to hear her talk. I want to hear her sing. If she was singing the whole show, that might be different. But talking?
Well,
How come she can't talk though, Buck? Done. Come.
I'm just not interested in hearing her talk.
You just not.
I've watched a couple of her shows, and
what's it like? Is it good?
I'm coming. I think it's a little humdrum, melodramatic. She's kind of got a focal point, like she wants to be inspirational, motivational. She's aiming at pulling in like TikTok stars or Instagram stars. So she's got a format that she's going after. Like she had a group of cheerleaders from your home state, University of Southern California, I think it was, USC, and they were very popular. They were not put together by the university. They established themselves, and they performed at the first football game, and it went over really big, and she brought them on her show. Then on the other show that I saw, she had some dancers that were TikTok sensations, and to me they were doing the Casper slide, but they blew up and they became very popular on TikTok, and she brought them on her show. So it looks like that's the type of formatting that she's using to bring people in. And she starts out with a motivational piece, and then she brings on a star. She's got the star power to be able to bring the stars in. So it's kind of like she's going down that path. I've never ever watched Drew Barrymore, so I couldn't tell you, comparison wise, who's what and what. I know if I had to listen to Jennifer too much, I probably would never watch her again, because she is really, her voice sometimes can be annoying.
Wow.
Just her voice, not her content, but just the tone of her voice.
That's interesting.
I'm like, ooh, do I have to listen to this? So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I probably would watch a couple of more, but I don't know if I would be a great fan. Welcome to the show, our illustrious, fearless leader.
What up,
Lee?
How y'all doing?
Michaels.
Good. How you feeling?
Good.
Hello, sir. Welcome to your show, sir.
No, this is our show. I don't own it. This would be us.
Okay. Well, you started it. We just here to keep carrying it on.
All right.
You know what I just found out from watching Chris Bass the other day? The show was actually Dr. Ron's idea.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to stop hating on the big guy.
Yeah. No, please. Everybody's got to have haters. So please, that's your job. Keep on hating. And just to give everybody a little background on that, 2 years ago we started the show as election coverage. And it kind of parlayed. We did like 4 days straight in a row of election coverage because nobody could declare a winner, and we were like there, battling it out every night, trying to give everybody up to date, the Black version of the election coverage. And, people were following us and keeping up with what's going on. And after that, we had such a great chemistry that, I went to Lee and said, hey, can we keep it going? And he said, sure. And here we are, 2-3 years later, almost?
Yeah, it was election, what was that? What is this, 22? That was 20?
Yeah.
Oh, there goes Lee with that echo again. Good job there, Mr.
Don't be mad.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Look, it took him 5 minutes to get that straight before he actually came live.
No, well, I was having some other technical issues. My
Oh,
my
okay.
reverberation is set permanently, so
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I don't have to fool
Oh,
around with
lucky
that.
us. Lucky
Yeah.
us.
That's
Yeah.
right. Get used to
Okay.
it, there, young buck.
I
Yeah.
mean, he out in the lead now, but I'm gonna come on, pull on up the rear. It's all good. We're gonna get
Yeah.
things. All good things come to those who wait. Comes in time. That's all right.
I thought you were going to say all good things come to an end. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
No, well, Lee is gonna do all the thing, and so he gonna do his thing, and he done worked all the bugs out of everything. So when I get
Right.
mine, I just drop on in with the flow. It's what it's a game. It's a game that we used to play back in the day called Follow the Leader.
Yeah, right. I remember that. Sure.
Yeah.
It was
Absolutely.
fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, look, it's 8:30, and Buck has got a story. I know that's very unusual, but I would like to throw it to Buck so he can introduce the young
Okay.
lady.
So I have a friend who's okay. Well, first of all, big. Let's take a moment just for a minute to offer our condolences to the family of and friends of Coolio. The rapper Coolio died, and the rap community is sad because he was a real big. He wasn't necessarily a pioneer, but he was big early on in the development of rap music, and he was a big deal. And it was kind of sad to see him go. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was like, "Oh, all these people are just dropping off like flies," and I'm thinking, yeah, well, maybe he wasn't taking care of himself or whatever. Rappers do a lot of drugs, so maybe that took a toll on his heart or whatever. Blah blah blah. Maybe he was still doing it or whatever. And she said, "Well, I've been telling people maybe it was that vaccine because the vaccine is not what it seems to be, and it's been killing
Says who?
people." And
Says who?
so I said, "Well, you know what? Why don't you come on the show and talk about this?"
Yeah.
Because she watches the show, and she's never called in or come on or whatever, blah blah. So I invited her on. If we can bring her in, her name is Mrna Soliman. Now, Mona, I'll let her. There she is. Hey,
hello.
Yeah, she worked on. Well, okay, I'll let her tell why she is against the whole vaccine thing.
So
Welcome to the Lion's Den.
I know. That was my warning. Thank you, Lee. First and foremost, let me say any of my thoughts, opinions, or what have you. Of course, healthcare is always personal. So that's all it is, an opinion. But I have done medical research. I have done specifically, believe it or not, 30 years ago on the mRNA vaccine. So interestingly enough, and then I went back to school, I am also a licensed chiropractor, acupuncturist, and nutritionist, because I thought maybe there's a preventative way to all this medication and these therapies and the medicine in general. There's a time and a place for everything. So not to get into all that, but so I did RNA vaccine research. Pharmaceutical companies.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am. Sir. Sorry.
Church finger. What is what did you say? RNA?
mRNA.
mRNA, which is what the COVID vaccine is.
Okay.
Hey, Mona, before you continue,
yes,
can you turn your mic down a little bit?
Oh.
Yeah, mic one. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, there you go. Just
yes.
turn it down.
Yes.
I built her studio, that's why I know. There you go.
Better? Okay.
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
There you go.
So first and foremost, this is not in any way, please let me just use that phrase, conspiracy theorist. It is a personal choice. I will also tell you, I don't have the vaccine, but guess what? I have the antibody because I got tested for that. So that's interesting too. I am a research nut by nature, so I read things all the time. And interestingly enough, the terminology, the phrase they give the COVID vaccine, and this is in science journals, specifically one that was the Science News Journal. And it basically said, COVID was the great equalizer. So Did we need to have something? Yes. Did they have to create an emergency? Yes. A lot of people were dying. Interestingly, when you do the research, you can see that more African Americans have died than any race.
So what she was basically saying is that the mRNA, the COVID vaccines are all based on this mRNA, and it's not real vaccines like they used to make with other viruses. Right. So because they needed to do it quickly.
Yes, and that's why it got approved quickly, because it has to be an emergency situation, and it was. People were dying. You know, technically the last pandemic was 100 years ago. So again, the great equalizer was kind of suspect that they were saying, was it to equalize races? Were African Americans getting a little bit further ahead? I am not a virologist, I am a microbiologist. But it's interesting that because I did the RNA research back then, pharmaceutical it was at the time in my college, I went to college in Canada, I am from Canada, and I got recruited to Baylor Hospital in Dallas. So that's where I was doing it. And pharmaceutical company came in that was sponsoring the study, came in on a Monday morning. They pulled the plug. Our incubators were wiped clean. And we thought, well, I thought we're doing the study. You know, we're close to some associations, assimilations, what's going on. They said, yeah, they don't want to do it. They cannot tell the long-term effects with RNA because different bodies also incorporate that into their own. It's not the DNA, which is on your, chromosomes. It is the RNA, which is proteins that, are in your system, which is also a cumulative effect of having to get the 1, 2, 3 boosters or now annual vaccines is what they're trying to formulate. I volunteered for the study because they were trying to come up with a mRNA vaccine to mono. And I thought, well, I'll volunteer for that one because mono, I had it as a kid. Well, interestingly enough, also, the monovirus is COVID. So that's why I have the antibody, because I'm immune, having had it when I was younger. So
why is the virus killing Coolio?
So
the vaccine.
So
why
we're
did the
not.
Vaccine kill him?
Yeah. So we're not going to say the vaccine killed him. Did he
Do
have?
we know that he even had it?
So we don't know that he had COVID.
Right.
That is it. We do know he did drugs. We do know that drugs can also cause heart problems. So it is shown that the COVID vaccine targets and weakens, if you will, the heart organ and the system. So that's what there's more college students than ever. You've been hearing about college students here and there that are at football practice on the field and drop dead. That's because it does affect. So if you've had an underlying condition, if you have a weakness, it does target it. Well, guess what else? 40% of African Americans have a heart deficiency or a problem with the heart system, whether it's high blood pressure, whether it's, different health conditions, whether it's also many, many more have arrhythmias and pacemakers. So again, that tends to
Ron, you got a pacemaker, Ron? I'm just
No,
asking.
I do not.
My own mother has father has a pacemaker. So,
that's right.
And again, coming from African Americans, it is more. So they literally had done the studies, and it was over 40% to under 30% in our alternate counterparts, if you will. So it's just an interesting, again, research, not nature, people. That's what we do, because we try to look at the research of things and what is the basis of doing a study. So it's just interesting. There was interesting data that was talking about the virus spread even was exposing the racial fault lines, they called it. Because why are different races affected? Interestingly enough, doing the research when I was at Baylor Hospital, we always volunteered because we could get extra lunch money. So I volunteered all the time. So So we volunteered to give blood just to do gene and blood types by race. Well, isn't that interesting? Why do we need to do that? because we always had to assimilate controls and see how those different things we're trying to incorporate affects the different races. So,
Now, we know that African Americans and some of the other minorities tend to be a little anemic
yes,
in the way of health care, period,
yes,
having adequate insurance, going
Yep.
to the doctors on a regular basis to get checkups and all that. So we know that we, as a people, tend to have a lot of underlying conditions
yes,
that we don't attend to, not aware of, because we don't go to the doctor
yep,
and get examined and, get the various tests and what have you. So, I'm not with this whole idea that they created this virus to attack Black people or Hispanics.
sure,
I think it's just because we are sick people and don't know it in most cases until it's too late because we don't have adequate health care.
sure.
I mean, does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense, but then I'll propose to you, if that is the case, did they know that as well? Because
Well,
they
I think
know
we all kind of, anybody that's tuned into the healthcare world at all knew that. But was this virus created or did it come about for however it came about? I don't know.
Sure.
Was it targeted, I guess is my question, towards people of color?
I don't know if I would use that strong a term of being targeted, created, if even formulated for that reason directly. But if you sometimes know the effect of it, because it was in Wuhan, because it was initially when it came out, remember there was a lot of talk about the markets and, well, they have rats and dogs and everything in the markets for
Bats.
sale and
Yeah.
everything. So I remember at that time too, maybe about 6 months to a year before it all happened, I remember president at the time made the law, if you will, that the USDA no longer required labeling of the origination of meats. Well, that's kind of an ironic timing too. So,
enough.
or America, which is, by the way, a capitalist economy, as you all know, capitalist government. We're not the biggest, but we are the worst. We had the worst effect than any other country in the world to that. Whether it was our own selfishness to not mask, to not get vaccinated, whatever those different things were, that's kind of interesting too.
It was bad in other countries though too. I mean, like Brazil had it really bad
Well, at different times.
at different times, right?
And-
Exactly. Remember, the Italians had it the worst at first.
They did. And
Remember, I don't
India
even know
also
why.
was bad, yeah. And these were always
India. Everybody's on top of each other in India. It's like everybody's like, and it's hot there, and
Sure. But again, and interestingly enough, remember, we needed those boosters based on those outbreaks from the different countries. Well, is travel that much? Because I thought planes were almost shut down. So it's interesting that those were in those countries, but then yet the worst of effects were in America. Now, granted, I know families and immigration and, people migrate all the time, but that wasn't happening in this time, just raw now. So whether it's a composition of our bodies, whether it's a race, whether it's our genetics, whatever that is. So that is, one of the factors that could have some effect. I'm not saying, like I said, it's just interesting that more than ever, I mean, you guys all watch the news, read the headlines, that doesn't it seem a little odd that this person had a heart attack, this person fell asleep, died in his sleep, that person did this thing too. I mean, we've got enough problems with mental illness and, guns and everything else that it just, for it to stand out, it made me, and again, I'm a research nut by nature, it made me dig a little deeper, ask a few questions. I'm thankful I still have access to different things. And I do have some personal friends that also after the vaccine and or after they even had COVID, they have now been put on high blood pressure medication and diabetic medication, diabetes. So that's interesting too, as an effect, as opposed to that was the cause.
So you're saying basically that this vaccine is causing unknown side effects that we're not going to know about for a while.
And that's one of those things that they're calling the long COVID. I don't know if you've heard that term, the long COVID. And it's saying that. What does the long COVID do? It creates a patient, to have to now always come in. Heart disease, diabetes. You have to go to the doctor every 3 to 6 months, get your medications refilled. That's $1 trillion business, medicine. I'm not saying there's not a time and a place for that when it is, because heck, I've had to have it at different times too. But to create that, that was a big thing. In my mind, the other thing, because we also used to do the research for different vaccines, it was interesting as well. The vaccine, the vaccines in general, flu shots, have been $1 trillion business and an epic fail in the last 10 years. So now what did they do? What did it create in the last 2 years? We will now have an annual flu shot of COVID. So it's going to be whichever one they want to build to the effect of this is the new strain, this is the new mutation.
But you know what's funny though? Remember 2 or 3 years ago, and they said the flu shot was total crap. Mm-hmm. That next year I got it, I wasn't sick the whole year. I mean, that next year they got it right. It worked. Whatever it did, right. It worked.
Right.
And I'm proof of that. I never usually get flu shots, but I got it that next year. I wasn't sick the whole year. I was loving it.
I got a question.
Yes.
When they started talking about the development of the COVID vaccination, there was a concern that the COVID, this type of the 4 letters that you used, was a targeted attack just for COVID. And there were concerns that it would lower your immune system so that other, like the flu, that a person would normally get, their seasonal flu, would your immune system would not be strong enough to fight off your normal, because people have, we know for years and years before COVID, people can die from the common cold. Yes. People can die from the flu.
People do die from the flu.
Sure.
Yes.
Every year.
There are illnesses that you can seasonally get and not be able to fight off those type of things with this particular type of technology in your system. So you being part of a research team that worked on some things in that area, what can you speak to that?
So mRNA, again, is a protein. It is not like a DNA that incorporates into your genes, into your chromosomes. So because it's a protein, the mRNA vaccine was created in such a way that it was supposed to formulate the proteins of the COVID virus for you to have it now in your system, so the COVID virus could not attack you as badly. So if you had the vaccine, you could still get it, which is why you can still be asymptomatic and have symptoms, be asymptomatic but still carry it, number one, or have symptoms and still not even have the antibody. Many who have been exposed do not have the antibody. So, but what you're doing is you are incorporating that protein into your system, and that's what lowers your immunity. So whenever you're doing something, if you're sick and then you're exposed to something else, it's harder to have a strong system to fight that off. So you're now incorporating this protein. Your body's saying, what is this? This isn't me, but your body's trying to, because it has a very powerful innate ability to incorporate that. So it's trying to do that, but then now you're exposed. So you can't always do those both, or if you have other conditions that can affect that. So if you're already at a lowered immune system, see, it was interesting when they started it, they said elderly should not get it. Because my mom at the time was in a home, and first they were saying all people in the homes need to get the vaccine. But that didn't make sense because I thought the old people shouldn't get it. So, and then there was a massive...
My mom got it though. She's in a assisted living facility. She got it.
Right.
And they made everybody get it. It wasn't even a choice.
Right. They made everybody get it. And interestingly enough, in those homes, a lot of the workers, which is another thing about why African Americans were and are, getting it so much, was because, African Americans tend to be in the service industries more than our counterparts. They just do. And
Mexicans. In California, Mexicans, everyone. Tell them, Lee.
Yeah.
Right. So because they were not allowed to not be at work, they were not allowed to work from home. So they were exposed more. And Lee, you mentioned also the healthcare. So not only do we not have as good a healthcare sometimes, but we don't even have the access, because whether the health plans are made in such a way that it leaves some out. It just does. That's just the way, the country is. That's just the way we are. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. If you have a health care plan, you have insurance, it may be an HMO or some of the others that doesn't give you the freedom or the ability to choose the doctors or type of services that you want without a referral. And then you got to wait for that referral. And then in the meantime, you could die.
Yeah.
While you're waiting for the paperwork to come to fruition.
If it does.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get turned down.
Yeah, I can say, maybe about a year ago, I was not feeling well. So I thought, wow, everybody's got that built-in fear. Is it COVID? Well, I didn't know. I'm a single mom. I've got a child. So it was an interesting thing because, of course, I got to be well. So I took myself, I didn't take myself because I didn't even feel stable to drive. So I called 911 just to go. I was having a little vertigo and a little weakness and balance on my feet and walking. And I have a history. I've fallen off a mountain, a couple other things. So, I'm not concerned, but it's like, okay, I got to deal with it. So let me just do that to check myself out. So I went there. Everything was good. They said, you have picture perfect blood. You are fine. Check out, follow up in a couple weeks, that kind of thing. You know how much that cost me? And I had insurance. $10,000.
And that's just the ambulance ride.
Well, exactly. That was crazy. Exactly.
It's a good thing you're rich.
You'd have been better off calling an Uber.
Well, Tyrone.
True.
Calling Tyrone.
Right.
Tyrone.
But because everybody's, again, now another thing, because everybody else is in different situations, you're having problems with Uber sometimes too. It's a little bit better, don't get me wrong. But still, there's crimes, there's all kinds of things. Yeah. So you just do what you do. And again, that being with insurance, back to your point, Lee, people have insurance, and whether it's the HMOs, the PPOs, whether it's covered, what your deductible is, what your premiums are. A lot of people take the lower premiums, because they've got families and they've got a $10,000 deductible. And that's essentially what mine was. So, it's just interesting. So it's a, I don't know what you even call it, but it's a triple, quadruple edged, thorn that we're trying to juggle in different ways. I'm not saying it was targeted to African Americans, but what I am saying is the data and the science and the differences are there that it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. And
well, I was thinking that the Chinese don't give a crap about African Americans. They just care. Well, maybe they want to.
I'll just smile.
If it was them, they just want to destroy everybody except the Chinese. I don't know if along those lines of thinking.
Right.
Because I don't think they give a crap about Negroes at all.
Well,
what a Negro.
And we can say in different ways, places, peoples, whatever. You're seeing that everywhere because that's the biggest picture, the big picture of the racism. It comes in different forms and fashions. We've all been exposed to it. Believe it or not, yes, me too. People are like, well, what are you? Because you're not us. Really? So, yeah, my hair's a little, curly and crazy, but hey.
I got another question.
Yes.
Now, when you are in the middle of your research project, I know that they provide various test subjects in order to be able to, validate the project.
Mhm.
So, what were the numbers looking like for this type of technology when you all were doing before they came in and erased everything and took everything over? What were the numbers looking like? Were they, very positive results that this technology may come to the forefront before the all of a sudden world emergency where we got to push it out there right now, completely untested or completely tested? So, what were the numbers looking like?
Well, what we were trying to determine is we were trying to come up with a vaccine option that was not just the usual, what's called the dead attenuated true virus. Nobody could isolate COVID. So that's why the mRNA was going to facilitate the best guess of what it would be. So that's what an mRNA vaccine does, and incorporates different proteins that tries to mask as the virus is in you. So it's not a dead attenuated virus in you anymore like a true vaccine is. It is the protein that the virus would use to multiply. And so because you have it, you can, fight it off. The virus is saying, oh, this is me, so it's okay. Could still take a little root, but not a full-fledged, breakout. So, but we were finding assimilations, and we were seeing, yeah, it could be done. But the reason they pulled the plug was because between the different people and or races that we did collect samples for, they said the variation was so widespread that they couldn't contain it. But what's interesting, when this all happened, and I remember that stuff because it was almost, kind of the medical research is just intense. And when you're trying to come up with cures and, things, it's pretty intense. But when this all happened, I thought, well, my goodness, 30 years later. So they didn't destroy the data. So that's why when it was coming up and it thought, people were saying, you're getting the vaccine. And I said, I'm going to opt out just to kind of see how this develops a little bit as it goes. I'm not saying I would never do it, but I wanted to see. About a year, 18 months in, I thought, well, I'm going to go to the doctor now and I'm going to get an antibody test. So you can buy the antibody test, and that's what's interesting. So before you had to get the vaccine to fly, I thought, well, why couldn't you do a antibody test to be able to fly? Because if you have the antibody, you should be immune. You are immune. They wouldn't let it happen. So when I got the antibody test, I was full-fledged COVID antibody. And whether that was from mono, whether that was from being exposed to somebody, but my immune system, thankfully, is strong. And I produced the antibody, but I didn't have the symptoms, possibly. So it was interesting. It was very eye-opening because that just told me they didn't destroy the data. Interesting also, for all vaccines, they have to give almost 37% blanks. So some of my friends, of course, now even in the medical community, they said, is this real? Is this true? I said, well, that's how they tell, if
placebos.
Yes, absolutely, the placebos. So, and interestingly enough, when my son was going through all his flu shots, or vaccines, one year, I think it was H1N1, the doctors were like, you really want to get this for young kids and elderly. I said, well, I'm not really a flu shot person, but okay, if this one's bad, we can go in. And, I asked the different questions. And then they sent me a card about 20 days later and said, oh, he got a blank. Can you bring him back in? I said, no, 20 days later, we're good. We're just pumping up on vitamin C and other things. But it was interesting. So most don't know. You won't know if you're getting a blank. We don't know with the mRNA if you're getting a blank. But that's supposed to be the study because those are built in what they call double-blind studies. So the intent is to give an option to the normal dead attenuated live vaccine, or not live, but dead attenuated real vaccine as a virus, as opposed to just a guess of what the protein they're going to use. And truly, viral science is that if we can do the research that talks about what proteins, what amino acid viruses live on, you can just flood your body with that amino acid. You can buy every amino acid at the store, any grocery store, even online. That's where I get mine. And that builds your immune system with those in your body. So you see which viruses you want to avoid. You take the ones that are going to drown them out. That's what I did. So, but interestingly, more and more, even with social media, even with all this access to information, a lot more stuff has been blocked. So it's interesting. I'm thankful, like I said, I have access to more databases research-wise. So I just think we all need to just be aware, be empowered about your health, because for many reasons and many ailments, and then there's some things there's no getting around it. There's some things you can't.
And time to plug her new YouTube show, her new YouTube channel, For the Love of Health, which is going to be starting soon.
So body, soul, and mind, you can be empowered and educated, and just to be inspired, to just read. I appreciate doctors for going to school and spending all that time and money. I went to chiropractic school, and interestingly enough, I took more nutritional vitamin supplement hours, radiologic hours, if, of course, not being a radiologist, but just the basics, than medical school, pre-med school, doing that. And so when you know the basics, it's enough to get you in trouble, but it's enough to ask questions. And so that's what I want to help people, is to ask those questions. So that's what I was doing, was asking all these questions with COVID, because it was kind of weird that I'm like, wow, 30 years later, here we are. So
for the love of health.
The number 4, the love of health. Yes. And I have
by
a
the way,
website.
I just had 4 people just text me and say that, she's hella fine.
We are focusing here on our health. So
that's what I'm telling you. I'm not making that up.
Touche.
Just be cool.
That's what they say.
Touche.
Now, I'm in that senior group
yes.
of old people.
Yes.
And I've been shot 4 times.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yep.
And
the
you
leg?
are blessed.
In the head.
It doesn't matter where it is.
Right.
No, you're bleeding a lot.
Taking all that payola, that's what that was.
No, ain't got nothing to do with nothing. But I've had all 4 shots.
Okay.
And for the last year and a half or 2 years,
sure,
I've not had the flu or runny nose or anything, or any side effects that I can point to. Okay. So I guess I'm a part of that lucky group, I guess.
Sure.
And I made the decision. I did wait for a while, and wanted to see how it went. I didn't rush. I wasn't in that first line. And I wanted to see how it worked. Especially, I didn't have a lot of confidence in the jackass that was in the White House. So that made me kind of pull back a little bit, because everything he said,
that. Yeah.
I did. And I'll stick with it.
Right.
But I felt like I had to get back into the world, because I have a limo business.
Sure.
And if I'm going to be around people in close contact, I felt that I had no choice but to give it a shot. Now, at the same time, I did take vitamin C, D, what's the other one?
Zinc.
Zinc. And
elderberry.
No, elderberry.
Turmeric.
No,
I could give you a whole list, but hey.
Yeah, but
she's in all those the supplements.
If I showed you my cabinets of my medicine chest, yeah.
B12, but I don't think that had anything to do.
Yeah. Frankincense.
But my doctors told me that the checkup before last,
sure,
that my B12 was a little too high, so I stopped.
Okay.
But I did get back on it after the COVID thing kicked in, just to keep my energy going.
Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was the decision that I made, and I don't know whether it was the right decision, or did I overreact and take the shots and didn't really need it? I don't know. But sitting around the house getting fat and not making any money, I said, I got to do something. Right. It's going to kill me or not.
Sure. Well,
Okay,
and that's-
Simona, what do we take for to if we're not going to get the vaccine? What do we need to take to boost our immunity?
Boost your immunity. Vitamin C, of course. Elderberry, zinc. Gosh, you could do so much depending on, again, things are a little bit personal based on, again, Lee mentioned he needed energy too. So there's different things. But those are the top ones. Turmeric, garlic, fantastic. I love to make a water that's just got sliced cucumbers, squeezed lemons, and shredded fresh ginger root. I mean, ginger is fantastic. I don't take the same thing every day. I don't use the same brand of a bottle. When I'm done, I toss it and I buy a different brand.
You didn't mention crack though, did you?
No.
For energy. Just say it for energy.
No, I thought it puts you to sleep. I don't know. I never took that in school. Sorry. No.
Maybe put you
No.
to eternal sleep. Maybe that's what.
Right.
Well, and back to, I'm not trying to get off, but back to Coolio. Did he do cocaine? Yes. Did he go through rehab twice, 2009 and 2015? And you know me, Buck, you know me from doing the research. Whenever I read something, whenever I see something in the news, I have to do the research because I don't just want to take what somebody told me. So, sometimes when it just says died, suddenly you're wondering like, what? And what are they reporting? Why
That's what I
aren't they?
said. I said,
Yeah.
he is probably all those drugs he was doing. And you're like, well, no, look at the vaccine. Say it was probably the vaccine.
Well, and I'm not even saying it was the vaccine. And yes, it can have those long-term effects. But again, look how much people jumped on people for not getting the vaccine. So look at can't think of his name off. Kyrie Irving playing basketball, and he stood to his chops, not getting it. So everybody's it's a very personal thing, whether it's a vaccine, whether it's a supplement, it's very personal. Buck, I've fallen off a mountain. I have gotten to a near fatal car wreck. My right side, my right leg is rebuilt. And some people said, do this, do this, do this. And I was like, not so much. I've been told all kinds of things as far as I've been told all kinds of things, but in general, regarding health, and it was like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to try something different. And
Lee, she's been shot 6 times.
No, I'm from
Bad
Canada.
mama.
I'm from Canada. We don't do that. Yeah.
But I want to hear more about this off the mountain
Oh yes.
slippity slide.
So I lived in Jamaica, and when you have roads on Jamaica or on mountains, you go around. Well, I thought, can't you just go straight down it? It's quicker.
She was a kid.
Yeah, I was 10, but I'm still here.
Oh, you
So-
were walking.
No, I was on a bike,
Oh,
and
no.
I didn't go around the mountain. Yeah, I went down.
Yeah, she was riding a motor. She was
I'm
riding a
hard-headed
motorcycle.
too. You should know this. So
She was riding a motorcycle at 10.
Dang.
it was a 12 speed.
Okay.
So, but again, and these are different things. When I broke my leg, I literally didn't break my leg. I crushed my leg in a car accident. I had those, remember back in the day when you had those automatic seatbelts? Well, I didn't put my lap belt on. Didn't mean to do anything. They were new, you forget. So I didn't do that. So somebody ran a light, hit me head on, and my hips went into the dashboard, crushed my leg. And the doctor said, we have to amputate. And I said, no, you don't. So they said they were giving me iron and I wasn't forming enough blood. And they said, well, you're not making enough blood. We're going to have to give you a transfusion. And I said, no, bring me vitamin C. And they said, why? This is a doctor telling me, asking me. And I said, because you assimilate iron better if you have it with vitamin C to incorporate it. And they said, well, we don't know. Then they came back and probably 6-7 doctors told me. I don't know, Leah or whoever, if anybody, if you're familiar with Parkland Hospital in Dallas.
Yep.
That's where I was. And they basically said, no, we have to give you a transfusion or a amputate. And I said, no. Give me the vitamin C. And in 2 days of taking it, they basically said, wow, it's a miracle. And I said, is it? So,
I think doctors, especially in hospitals, probably just want to do the quickest thing that they know how to do and get out of there and
True.
get to another patient
True.
because they ain't
Right.
got time for your ass.
because again, it costs money. So if they can get you in and out and use that bed to get the next person, and I'm not saying there's a time and a place, because initially when the accident happened, then, I needed doctors. And they even said, you should have died. I think I heard it 7, 8 times when my eyes were closed in the hospital room. And I said, guys, I'm awake. I can hear you. Can you stop saying that? Because I'm not dead. I'm here.
Did you say that? Did you say that? Were you able to say that, or are you saying that internally?
No, 6, 7 times. I told them, I can hear you. Yeah, because it's a teaching hospital, so they bring in the rounds each time. And
isn't that one of the top hospitals, if not the #1 hospital in the country?
For trauma?
Yeah.
And I was fighting because I had worked at Baylor Hospital at the time. And I said, no, you got to take me to Baylor. Don't you understand? I'll get like red carpet treatment. They said, no, because your trauma, the young lady that did hit me, she did not have her seatbelt on. So she had all internal bleeding. So she got priority for Baylor. So
she died. Didn't she die?
She did. Yeah, bless her heart. Yeah. So again, things happen. We have to live from them, grow from them. I'm not saying I do everything. I'm going to pray right now because we've talked about this now that nothing else happens and I'm safe. But because I can't do a dizziness and vertigo to go for $10,000 when you have insurance is just ridiculous, crazy. So
I have a friend I just talked to a couple of days ago. He's in Florida, of all places.
Oh wow!
In Tampa, and I hadn't heard from him for a few months. And I called him. I said, "Hey man, how you doing?" He said, "You got a minute?" I said, "Sure."
Oh.
And he gave me this whole long story where he was on his way to visit his son. He was driving by himself, and he passed out behind the wheel.
Oh.
Took out a telephone pole, a fence, ended up in a ditch, and he knows nothing about that because he fell asleep or passed out before.
Wow.
They kept him in the hospital for over a week doing all kind of tests, couldn't find anything wrong, nothing. Wow. All the blood tests were good, x-rays, MRIs, CAT scans, didn't find anything.
He didn't break anything? Anything?
He had a busted lip from the airbag.
Wow.
That was
God
it. He walked away from it.
Wow. I want to touch him. I want to
right?
Wow. Oh
so,
my goodness.
Time goes by. He got a little dizzy a couple of times, didn't pass completely out. And he called his doctor. The doctor said, well, you come in, I'll check you out, but I have no idea what's going on there. And they kept having him come back because he kept having these faint spells, if you will. But he didn't pass completely out. One time he fell in his laundry room in his house and he thought maybe he tripped over something. But make a long story short, the doctor finally decided that we need to run some special heart test on him, EKG and a sleep test. And they found that when he was rested, his heart rate was extremely low. And during this test, they found his heartbeat was down around 39 beats a minute. So they said, you need a pacemaker.
Yeah.
And that's what he got. He got a pacemaker, and he's fine now. Well, until I talked to him yesterday before the eye of the hurricane came through Tampa, and I called him today, so I don't know how he is now, but hopefully he's okay. But I brought that story up to say many times doctors are looking in certain directions and what they don't know what they're looking for, first of all, but they run a battery of tests. And when none of those tests come back with any leads, they kind of throw their hands up and say, well, shit, man,
what do you do?
I don't know what to do here. So,
right.
And so they send him home.
Right.
And then these other episodes kept popping up, and then his cardiologist said, hey, man, come in. I think you need a pacemaker.
Right.
Yeah. And they did it right away.
Yeah. Wow.
So I like you, Mrna, in that you ask the right questions. And because of your
a lot of questions.
Yeah, but she has the background. The average person doesn't have the knowledge to point to. That research that she has is invaluable. Let me ask you one question about this vaccine.
Yes.
Now, I understand that Pfizer had been working on this thing for about 10 years prior to 2020. Is that accurate information?
I'm not going to say that far because I've only heard about 5 to 6. There was prior research, but interestingly enough, what also has been said, and again, call it conspiracy if you wish, but again, it's just asking those questions. So when I did what I did, and I'm nobody big, by the way, so I can only imagine what else is known. But if I did this 30 years ago, and it's looking awfully familiar to what we learned from mono, and there are articles that you could access and see, that's what they're calling the long COVID. So they've known about this for 30 years, Pfizer, all of the pharmaceuticals. And it's interesting that, again, what's his name? Fauci? Wasn't he the founder of Moderna? Kind of interesting. Makes you wonder.
I hadn't heard that.
Oh, yeah, he was
That's
the founder. He was the founder. And that was one of the companies, of course, that got this so-called vaccine. So it was Pfizer.
I like him, though. I like his New York accent. Well, if you want to live, you get the vaccine, huh?
Right. Yes. But yes, there's stories out there that they were doing the research before. There's all these kinds of studies going on always, and where they're going to land. And what it should tell us all is if they're always doing this kind of research, what's next? This won't be the last pandemic or epidemic or virus, or it's interesting that they're not talking about a virus this year. They're just talking about COVID still.
I got a question.
Yes.
Now you live in Canada still?
No, I'm in Atlanta.
Okay. So the Canadian medical system compared to the United States, would you say that, because I understand they offer free medical in Canada to everybody, no matter what your status would be. So what do you think it would take in order for the United States to be able to institute those same type of practices? I know the medical industry is in an uproar. No, we got to make money. We got to do this. We got to do that. But do you think it's possible even that they can
raise taxes? That's what we got to do, is raise taxes.
I was going to say they'd have to raise taxes and enforce them to some degree, because Canada's taxes are no joke. I mean, right off the top, it is graduated.
What is
whatever.
What is it about?
Well, it's. I mean, relative to what I'm here versus there was about 25% more. So it is. It is
almost. It's close to 50%. I always said that too. It's like
it's not up to 50%. Again, it's graduated.
Well, it's
so
close.
It depends on what
close,
you make.
though, isn't it?
Can it be? Yeah, it can be as high as 70%. It just depends on what you're making.
Oh, dang! If you make as much as Lee, I guess they'd probably take all of it. Huh?
Shit.
But no.
That's what they're gonna have to do. Take it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I will say this for Americans, because I am a dual citizen still, and so I would, and a lot of people do say, okay, well, you're in Canada and the healthcare is terrible. Well, yeah, it's free. Yes, you pay for it with taxes. Would you rather pay for it in taxes that way? I mean, the roads, the parks, it's amazing. I'm not going to brag about Canada right now. But the other thing is they say, well, yeah, but you see people like on waiting lists and everything else, and not to talk about my personal thing. But I think I told you, Buck, at some point, I was having some trouble walking because, again, these mountain falls and car accidents, they catch up to you after a while as you age.
And getting shot 5 times. Yeah.
Right. It was 6. But again, it catches up to you after.
Wait a minute. That's a joke, right?
It is a joke.
Of course. A good one, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had to double check.
But over time, and just aging, because that's a natural process, but over time, as that happens, I was having trouble walking with balance and just stability. And I noticed when I'm walking, even just with friends, I would walk into them like, just kind of alongside them. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. So I went to the doctor because I couldn't figure out what was going on. And
this was in Canada, not here.
This is in Toronto. And interestingly enough, so again, everybody that does talk about, the waiting list and, this and that, what they do is they prioritize. They have a hierarchy of emergency. So, and it's not an emergency, but it's just priority about what? It's not monetized. So, for example, MRI machines are in every hospital everywhere. So if you can't go to one here, they will try to find you one. But they were telling me, well, we think you might have early MS. And I said, no, no, no. My name is Mona Soliman. You are mixing up the initials. So they said no. And this was a world-renowned MS doctor. And I said, Doc, give me a year. He said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm not sure yet. I'll do the research. I'll be back.
I'm going to blow this bitch up. That's what I'm going to do. What if you had said that?
No. No.
Watch me.
So, and I did everything under the sun. Everything possible short of chemotherapy. Everything. And I went back in that office and he said, you don't even look like the same woman. And I said, was I that bad? He said, I can see it on most patients. I said, well, maybe next time you should check it in most patients. And many things are very similar, especially this thing we call autoimmune. Well, what's autoimmune? Well, when you take, more and more vaccines, when you take more and more medicines, guess what? You're lowering your immune system. So guess what? Your body doesn't know who's who. So one of the things I'll even put out there, and not that this is getting into a health thing, but just because it is a time of health, when people say, because I was really proud, and it was like, when's the last time you were sick? I said, oh, it's been probably 4, 5, 6 years, just a cold and things. And he said, yeah, not good thing. Because when you are not sick, your immune system is not on. You want to get a cold. So when you're constantly giving flu shots, you're not getting a cold. You're constantly taking medication and suppressing those symptoms. Having a fever is just a way that your body says something's wrong. I'm hot. Take off your
I need to go tongue kiss somebody who's got a cold every once in a while, once a year maybe.
Where's the beep? Beep, beep him.
Yeah. Look, Miss Mona, thank you for all of your information.
I'm sorry, yes.
That you have shared with us on this evening.
Yes.
Buck, you want to say goodbye to your friend?
All right, I'll see you.
Yes. Thank you guys for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Great information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Right.
Thank you,
Have
Lee.
a good night.
Yes. Good night.
Bye-bye.
And
damn it. She gone. Damn.
Yeah. Mike Love in the house, y'all.
Lose you lose.
Yep.
Golly. Okay, she back.
She's back now.
Okay.
Oh, I'm back. Oh, wow.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, man, stop that. Put the girl back on. You play too damn much.
Well, her interview is over with.
I didn't do that.
Well,
Don't look at me.
Hey,
Yeah. So look, we got a couple.
Hold on a second. Nobody told this black man to be late.
Exactly.
Because y'all
Hour
don't tell
and
me what
20
to do.
minutes.
I want to talk to Mona. I ain't listening to y'all.
Hour 20 minutes late.
Well, Buck will give you the number since y'all so close.
No, I want to talk to her on the air. My back hurting right now. I need a chiropractic.
Yeah. Okay. I got a question for everybody.
Oh, hey.
Has anybody been following the incident with Tiffany Haddish? And
I want to talk to Mona. Who want to talk about Tiffany Haddish?
Well, you can always call her on the phone, brother. The incident with Tiffany Haddish and Ari Spears. Is anybody familiar with that scenario?
No.
I followed it a little
I'm
bit.
not.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There was a sexual assault lawsuit brought against her and the comedian because they participated in a skit with the 14-year-old and a 7-year-old. And as they got older, they filed a John Doe lawsuit against them for sexual assault. So, all of us are public figures. Some of us have broadcast every day.
Some of us hate them.
Some of us, have had people that have made accusations against us in the past, some true, not true. But, I thought this was an interesting subject to bring up and talk about because, now that the charges against them had been dropped and there are no no further action is going to be taken in the courts towards them. Tiffany Haddish made a statement that every gig that she had has been canceled, has been totally taken away, and she has literally been blackballed for the most part.
Although that is funny, because she's had a couple of gigs out since she made that statement, which is like,
well, maybe they're starting to pick up. But this was just yesterday that she made. They did a follow-up on this, September 22nd. Oh, I guess a week ago, September 22nd, in CNN entertainment section is when she made this statement. But as a person that's in the industry, have worked in the industry, have worked with many people, I'm just curious overall, what is the general poll and feeling of everybody that's involved about things like that, and how people can slander you, ruin you, take you down to a place where nobody will be bothered with you, man. This was a horrible scenario. So just throwing it out there, see how people feel about it. Don't everybody jump in at one time.
I'm thinking it's kind of the nature of the business, when there's always going to be haters that will, pile up negative energy towards you as an individual for whatever reason, envy, jealousy, just being a hater,
yeah, she gonna
Some
be
people just don't want to see anybody else succeed, especially if they have not had the same level of success and they think, I'm better than that. I mean, in my experience of working with radio personalities, I've heard that 100 times. Well, why you put him on in the morning? I'm better than he is. But you're a weekender, man. You ain't been on the air but 2 years. This guy's got 15 years of experience, a track record, and you still making mistakes. So it's that could be part of it. And I think that's the major part of it.
She's gonna be fine. I think people hate on her because she's kind of ghetto, and she doesn't try to clean it up or change it at all.
I don't know anything about her. Don't know her. Haven't.
I like her.
I maybe I've seen her work and didn't associate the work with the name, but for me, it's a blank.
She's awesome.
What does she come in?
What is she?
What shows or what has she done?
She's done several movies. Go ahead, Buck.
Girls Trip. You ever see the movie Girls Trip? Probably not, because I never watched it either. I just saw clips. And she had a couple of things on, what do you call it? On Netflix, maybe. She had a Netflix special or two. She's supposed to be a comedian, but she's really more of an actress at this point. She's awesome. I love her.
So
and she's fine. She's fine.
She's not A-list.
No, but she's fine.
Okay. She can be fine and short on talent.
Yes, that is true.
Well, she was hanging out with a lot of the top level comedians at one time. What's the little short guy? They've done movies together.
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart, yeah. They've done movies. I think they've done a movie or two together, and I know they've performed together. The whole thing came about when they had the children in a skit that she says she realizes later in life that probably was a mistake to act in conjunction with these young people.
Yeah, and that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, she apologized about it, and she went on, to do other things in her career. It wasn't something that she did lately. This was something that she did early on. And, the fact that, and I'm just going to mention Anthony Anderson. You remember when Anthony Anderson got jammed up real bad? Somebody accused him of rape on the set of one of his movies. And, that was, quite a few years ago. And, I think he got arrested and everything behind his scenario. Ooh. But then he has gone on, to achieve, greater levels of success. He's producing things, he's starring in things, so the industry can forgive you, and allow you, like Buck is saying, all that'll be all right. but right now it's kind of like still real time. You know, they're coming down on her really hard, even though the charges have been dropped. You know, the case is, you know, it probably smells of a payoff in there somewhere, but you know, to make it go away. But everything that she had on her appointment book, you know, they're like, hey, we don't want to have nothing to do with you right now. You bad blood, you know, and you know,
I don't think that's true though. When she says that, I'm like, really? I mean, you seem like you pull up your IMDb page. There's plenty of stuff on there. What are you talking about? I think she might just be crying spilled milk because she's not getting all the things that she thinks she's gonna get or should have gotten.
Well, the only thing I've heard about Tiffany Haddish from a negative standpoint online were other comedians saying she did not earn her stripes to get where she got to so quickly. So when other comedians have put 10 plus years in the industry, she kind of came out of nowhere and just leapfrogged over them. So that was the main thing I heard about that. But she has done some great
Cat Williams talked about that a lot.
Exactly. Cat Williams talked about that. Cat Williams could back it up because his body of work, the way he sold out his specials, continue to make money. So again, when you look at the body of work of one to the other, and someone just leapfrogs over others, it's always personal. Everybody talk about don't take it personal, this business. It's always personal.
It goes right back to haters. They're hating.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it happens. Yeah. And so going back to Tiffany Haddish, you can pick and choose the movies she's done. One movie she did recently, as of 2021, came out called Here Now. It deals with he's working with Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal plays a writer for like a Saturday Night Live show, and he's having forms of dementia and things of that nature. And she's helping him with that process when he's trying to relive his moments and he wants to build his family back in. So it's a very touching movie, and she's very good at it, going back and forth. So yes, when people leapfrog over other people, it happens all the time. People say the same thing about Kevin Hart. I think Kevin Hart, they'll use you up, just like the old Bill Withers song, "Use me till you use me up." I mean, he's doing all the commercials now, you know, for Citibank and everything else, all Chase card, all that other stuff. But before that, you couldn't turn around and sniff. All of a sudden, here comes Kevin Hart movie. That's what happens. You're hot, and they'll ride you out until the flavor is gone. But going back to Tiffany Haddish, you make mistakes in life, unfortunately, and I do agree it was settled out of court. But at the same time, you know, you do put a damage on you, so become like the scarlet letter on your chest, and no one wants to go near you because it's bad press, it's bad PR for the people that are connected to you as well. So unfortunately, it happened. And Aries Spears, he recently tried to go after Lizzo. You know, talk about how fat she is. And no offense to Aries Spears, but if I looked like him, I wouldn't say anything to anybody.
I know he's a big fat ass too. I love Aries though, but he's
got raccoon eyes and everything else. No offense to the brother, but you know, come on now, he's blacker than black, y'all. No offense to being black, but look at his eyes. I'm telling you. So
hey, I got a quick story. I got a quick Aries Spears story. So he came to Birmingham. And, you know, Birmingham, for some reason, has a really great comedy club, and a lot of the comedians like to play Birmingham, and because I guess they make some good money there. So because they have nothing else to do. So Aries came by the show to promote his comedy show. And I know that when they're in these smaller towns, a lot of times they sit up in the hotel room, ain't got nothing to do. So yeah, I like Aries. I was a big fan of his from Mad TV. So I said, let me go pick you up after the show, and we go to the club and hang out or whatever. So anyways, we're driving around in my car, and I was like, Aries, why don't you do radio? As many voices as you do, you'd be a killer hit on one of these national TV shows. I was thinking for maybe they were looking for somebody for Joyner at the time, or maybe it was Doug Banks was looking for somebody. But anyway, and you know what he said? No offense, Buck Wild, but I need to be seen.
Ooh.
And I looked at him and I was like, I wanted to say, no, you don't need to be seen. Okay. Not the way you looking now. I mean, he was big. Yeah. I'm like, dude, I mean, he was not like he was the prettiest thing in the world when he was smaller, but it was just like he had gained probably 50 to 75 pounds. Talking about, I need to be seen. I'm like, no, you don't, little Bruce. So I'm just saying. But I mean, I'm still a big fan of his. I mean, I'm cracking now, but I mean, he's really talented. It's just
he was. I remember seeing him on Mad TV too. Yeah, Mad TV. I first saw him was there as well, and very talented. You're right. I mean, had he applied himself, say to, like I said before, like a national syndicated radio show, just starting local, it still would have been great because he's a spot-on impressionist. Does a damn good Shaq. Before everybody started doing the Shaq, he really was spot on doing that right to this day.
And he's funny. He's funny. You know, the thing about a lot of morning shows is that they'll get a comedian and don't know how to use them, don't know how to direct them, and don't know how to fit them in to the show. And another thing too, I was just talking about somebody the other day, and I don't want to get on this whole thing of radio at all, but I was talking to somebody the other day about how radio shows don't know how to share the funny. So like they'll have a comedian on and expect the comedian to bring all the funny. Yeah. Nobody else tries to be funny, just the comedian. And if the comedian is not funny enough 100% of the time, then they get mad and say, oh, he ain't funny. And it's like, no, it's a group effort. You guys got to all try to chip into the funny. One comedian can't hold it down by himself. Come on. And a lot of morning shows just don't get that. And I'm just
see, I disagree with you.
Do you?
If you're going to have a comedian on, let him be the funny guy.
Yeah.
But see, and let's say you got 2 or 3 other people on the show. When a funny guy does a funny, that's a climax. Bust and move. Move on to the next thing. Hit a jingle or wherever you're going to go. Let it stay on a high. But then when you got a second person in the show to try to upstage the funny, then it becomes another funny. And then the third person in the show tries to come in with a zinger. It never ends. So what's the point of having a funny guy? In most cases, the main host of most of these shows is not real funny. That's why they had to bring in a funny.
Right. Now, see that I was just the opposite. We were all fun. I didn't want anybody on my show who wasn't funny. I had a rule on my show. If you ain't saying nothing funny, why are you talking? Because we were a funny show and it worked.
You wanted a comedic show. You wanted
and that's what we had exactly. And so,
but that's too much.
But I knew when to get out though. No, I agree with you. But I knew when to get out. I knew when to hit the promo.
Right.
And it worked.
Yeah, somebody's got to be pulling the trigger to end the funny.
That was
because
me.
It'll just go on and on and on.
Yeah,
and then egos get in the way.
Yes,
because you may be the main host, and your comedian comes and says, "Man, won't you tell that chick to shut up, man? When I finish my little bit, leave it. She don't need to come back with another funny." So you create those internal issues. So somebody's gonna have to be the coach to stop the crazy.
Right.
The funny turns into crazy.
But what I found was, and like I said, I don't want to dwell on radio, but it all comes down to leadership. Yeah. It all comes down to leadership.
Absolutely.
When you have a good leader, I thought of myself as a good leader. You don't really have those kind of problems, and it happened over time. I mean, I had to learn, but also too, you know what? I studied it. I read books on leadership. And how to lead people, and there's more to it than just going in there and winging it. There's a lot to it. John C. Maxwell.
But that became the copycat format in radio, in all formats. You had the host, you had the co-host, and you had a comedian. To the point where the comedian phased about leapfrogging and became the centerpiece of the show. He or she became the host, and all of a sudden, programmers, right there you go. The programmers from coast to coast want to get comedians to lead the show. No offense to comedians. But I think like anything else, when you put other radio people out of work, I mean, you don't see them running to be comedians, depending on who he or she is. They're broadcasters. But comedians, don't get me wrong. I know comedians like anybody else who went into radio and have done quite well, nationally and locally. I understand that. I work with some. I think at the same time, with a double-edged sword, when you have programmers who just copycat the format, and then they become the host. You as the radio person for many years, you get your ass out, and then let the good Lord hit you on the way out. With the doorknob split you in the asshole. Yeah. So that type of thing became a real prevalent situation.
But the problem though,
don't beat me.
The problem was with the comedians being the lead on the show. Oftentimes they try to make them into a jock. and they forget about the comedy all along because they're trying so hard to be the host of the show because their boss is riding their ass about that. You know what I mean? You got to do this. You got to do time, temperature. You got to blah blah. Get out with the blah blah. It's just and that's not what they're there for. They're there to be funny. They forget about the funny after a while, and it's not funny anymore. It's like, well, I thought you were supposed to have your first name is comedian. You're supposed to be funny, but you know what? They turn him into a jock. Now I think one of the things that makes Steve Harvey's show work is that Steve doesn't do the business. Shirley Strawberry opens the break, does all the business of the show, and Steve he's there is just still to be funny. But it's just called the Steve Harvey Show, but he's still just the comedian on that show.
That's right.
And I think
So everybody knows their role.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to have roles, in a multi-personality show, whether it's morning, midday, afternoons, overnights, whatever. Everybody's got to know their role and stay in their lane.
That's right.
And when you venture out of that, then that's when it gets a little chaotic.
And now if Steve learns how not Steve, but if the show learns how to edit themselves, I think that show will be spectacular. Especially Nephew Tommy and those 9-minute prank phone calls. It's like, you didn't think to edit that down a little bit to maybe 3 minutes?
Yeah. Well, look, we got about 25 minutes left in the show. Professor, you want to bring something out? He's shaking his head. Okay. Well, I'm going to circle back around to politics, my safety zone. We're like about 4.5 weeks away from the next midterm election. And I'm not sure what's going on.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Ron, but I just thought about before we get into that, can we just wish well wishes to all the people that were affected by the hurricane, the Hurricane Ian?
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people got hit hard in Florida.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I know the voice guy for stations that I've been using for years and years and years, Dr. Dave, he lived right in that area where they got hit with the hurricane, like right at the eye. And it's like didn't have power. I talked to him today. He didn't have power, and he was having a hard time getting his stuff out because his internet was down. So, and he did a lot of damage to his house. So just, pray for those people down there who got hit hard.
By all means.
Hurricane.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Okay. So election is, 4.5 weeks, almost 5 weeks away. And I'm not sure what's going on in your part of the country, but it has been extremely ramped up by the Republicans trying to use the playbook to strike fear, to strike conflict, and many of the things that they do to try and sway people their way. In Chicago, they've turned up the heat extremely. They're still trying to beat up this Safety Act, talking about the purge is coming. So do you have any idea how Stacey Abrams is doing in Atlanta, Buck?
The last polls, and again, you can't go by polls, but according to the last poll, she was still trailing the incumbent. But, you got to remember, the incumbent always has the advantage because they're in the job, and no matter what they're doing, they're always campaigning. I mean, whether they're trying to or not, they're always campaigning for their job. So, he's always trying to look real presidential or governorish, when he's on TV and, we're going to do this for the people. And, and then he tries to buy the vote. He's like, okay, we got a budgetary surplus, so I'm going to give it back, tell the people. And it's like, okay, so you give back a $300 refund or $400 refund to every Georgian. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's a nice little sentiment, but maybe you could use that to fix the roads. Maybe that could go to the schools. Maybe that can go to a lot of other places that you could do some good with that money rather than just giving it back to the people because you're trying to get reelected. So anyway, and then there's a lot of political ads, and you know what they're hitting her about?
What?
Being a celebrity. Showing her on these different talk shows and they call her Celebrity Stacey. She's good for the nation, but not for Georgia. You know, because she made that appearance on Star Trek. They're hammering her about that. And then one time she was on The View, and Whoopi asked her if she could see herself running for president, and she says absolutely. So they're just hammering her, thinking that she's just using Georgia as a stepping stone. It's like,
Yeah,
it's tiresome, and I'm tired of the political ads. Period.
Yeah. What about Warnock and Herschel
Walker?
Yeah,
Herschel is such an
that's a
embarrassment.
big one.
He's such an embarrassment. Oh my goodness. They've got now the Democrats have a campaign on there talking about Herschel Walker and how he threatened to kill his wife and held a gun to her head on more than one occasion.
Wow.
And he had interviews where he was talking about how he wanted to kill somebody and he was going to do a shootout with the police and all this other. It's like, oh, Herschel Walker is a violent person. Is this the person we want to have as a senator? I mean, he is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
So embarrassing. And Warnock's in the job now. Now, according to polls, Warnock is still ahead, but it's just like, why? It's such coonery just to have him in there. He just makes black people look so bad.
Yeah. Now, those are the two big that are nationally known. Are there any other races in Georgia that are really heating up or close?
No, those are the big ones that everybody's talking about.
Okay.
Those are the big ones. And it's funny that these are two races where we got black people running. And, that's kind of a big deal in Georgia because traditionally Georgians, they didn't go to the Senate and they surely didn't get into the governor's race, into the governor's seat. So It's kind of like it's interesting that these two races are the most high profile races and they happen to involve black people running. And so it'll be really interesting. I'm just scared Stacey's going to lose again. I really don't want to see her lose again. I really don't, because I like her. I like Big Stace. But, if she loses again, it's going to be like, she's going to run third time.
She's established a format, an organization that can be duplicated in a lot of places. So she's showing people how to put their organization in place where she can be known. She's known.
And she does a lot of good.
She does have national recognition with what she's been able to do and how she's been doing it. So Lee is back with us now. So what's it like out in California, Lee?
I have no idea.
Really, Lee?
No. I've been so focused on everything except California.
Okay.
And I know that sounds strange, but I feel like I live in Georgia and Texas.
Because there's so much publicity on these different places.
Yeah. And that's where I've been spending my money. I've been sending money to all the candidates in those two states that's running against these racist jackasses. Did I hit that on time?
Yeah. Yep. You got it.
No, really. I mean, I'm also focused in on Arizona, Ohio, but for the most part, I've been really focused in on Georgia, and Florida, and Texas, and all of the Democrats that are running in those three states. I've been sending money to, and I encourage all of you, everybody within the sound of my voice, to get involved and participate and send them. If $5, $10, it doesn't matter, whatever you can afford. And that's how we win. Warnock is not accepting any money from any big donors and those PACs and all of that. So cats like him, he's depending on us grassroots type donors to help him along.
And he's such a good guy too.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's like
how do you
they
let
just
this
try
guy
to,
down?
huh?
How do you let somebody like him down? He deserves to be there.
Yeah.
He's working hard for the people of the state of Georgia, all the people. So I'm down with it.
Yeah.
Stacey, I've sent money for her campaign as well, and I wish her well. I'm not sure that she's going to be able to pull it off again, because they're spending millions and millions of dollars in ads, just trying to own the media. That doesn't always work. We've seen people lose and spending a lot of money.
I think Stacey's spending the most money though.
Really?
Yeah,
I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I think she's been out campaigning everybody in terms of spending. Yeah,
Well,
she's
okay.
They're getting
Well,
they're
I
really
hope
getting behind Stacey.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
But I know she's doing a big grassroots thing, and I think that's where you win. Not necessarily in a TV ad. If they're calling her the celebrity candidate, if that's all they can say bad about her, is that bad?
Oh, well, they talk about what this is what's really stupid. And I don't even know how they can get away with murder in these ads, right? But they're saying, if Stacey were governor, this is what she would have done. She would have done this. She would have done that. It's like, bitch, how do you know? Don't be sitting up here speculating on what Stacey would have done. You don't know. Stacey's not governor. You can't say she would have screwed the state up based on this or that or that. You just don't know.
Fear campaigning.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
Republican
really
playbook.
Yeah, it's bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If Stacey Abrams were governor, she would have done this and that. It's like, really?
It might have been a better idea.
I wish y'all would tell me something I don't know.
You're so well informed, Professor.
Look, Professor, what do you want to say about the upcoming election?
Nothing. We've seen it. What are we going to do about it to register more people? What are we going to do more about to educate our people about that? I mean, at my church, we right now we got a voting campaign, because we have to vote. We have to vote. We have to vote. We have to vote for those that are going to serve our best interest. Gotta quit getting out. We gotta get out of this theater, man. We gotta get out of the theater and the drama. Is there a website that has the candidates together that are going to best serve the masses? Is that anywhere available? Is there any place where we can direct people to study these candidates as opposed to listening to, the brainwash channels, the CNNs, the MSNBCs, the Fox? And is there another place where we can go to get something so people can get some clarity? Because, especially among our people, we got to get some, because, some of our people going to vote for Herschel.
Yeah.
Some of our people, they're going to do some stuff. So where is the agenda for the masses of Black people? Where's the agenda? Where can we go to look to find that out? Because
you want to hear something about? I'm sorry, Reggie.
Every 4 years, we hear the same thing. We know the fear is coming. We know they're going to say the Democrats doing everything. We know the taxes is going up. Everything that has been done good, that they're going to come with the okie doke. We know that already. Okay, so but where the folks that are speaking for the positive things that have been happening these last few years? It's like they said, well, now the Republicans, they're going to get this stuff back because Joe Biden. I don't want to hear that. Tell me about the number of teenagers that we've gotten. I mean, the people that are 18, how we have registered them to vote in the colleges, in the high schools. What other social organizations are we doing to move this voter registration, and things like that? Where are we going there? Where is the nearest polling place, in your own area? Do you know where it is? Are you all having community meetings in your own communities? Are y'all sitting down talking with one another to find out what's best for our area in our city? All politics are local.
True.
But yet we still worrying about, brighten the corner where you are. The old church song, brighten the corner where you are. Fix what you can fix around where you are. I'm done, man, because
well, you know what, Reggie, you just did what you said we should be doing. Exactly. That was powerful.
Yeah, take action.
And that's why street news now exists, because we don't have any filters. You know, we can talk about what we want to talk about, and we're trying to reach as many people as possible. That's why we always ask you to like, share, and, you know, get the word out there. And that's how we grow and become a place where people can come and hear voices.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Besides the voices in our head.
Yeah, I'm not waiting for somebody else to create something. And all the things that you just spoke about, Professor, are being done, but they're not being publicized.
Okay.
So maybe we need to do a better job in bringing in some of those people that are in that grassroots level and that are doing those things that you just spoke about. I know they're being done. It's kind of like the quiet storm, and maybe that's best.
Well, in Atlanta, all the black radio stations, even from different owners, are all getting together to get out the vote, which is a particularly interesting thing because that usually doesn't happen. I don't know if it's happening anywhere else. Chicago, I know there aren't any black stations.
It used to happen in Chicago, but it was under different ownerships of the 3 or 4 black stations that were in the market.
Yeah.
But we had a connection among those stations, among the management level, that we did things like that, especially during Harold Washington. We had him on a monthly basis when he became mayor to address the public. Yeah. And people could call in and ask the mayor questions.
Yeah.
But I don't know anybody doing that now.
They do that here.
Okay,
yeah.
That's good. That's
Frank
good.
Ski started that here. He called it Ask the Mayor. I stole it in Birmingham. Yeah, I stole it in Birmingham, and I called it Ask the Mayor. So the mayor of Birmingham would come on once a month.
Yeah,
and we go,
that's good. That's good. Good access because
I think the program director of my station is the one who started this whole Black Radio United thing, to get out the vote and get people registered. And they did it in the last election, and they brought it back this year for this election. So,
perfect.
Well, you know, the question I think I always ask is, what are you prepared to do? And that's a clarion call for all of us. Like going back to what the professor said about politics being local, and it branches out to the nation. Grassroots started politics and to where it is now. And it could be a clarion call to go back to basics. To understand that we should not be disconnected to the future, which is the younger people. So when I first got a chance to vote, you mentioned about Harold Washington. That was the first time I voted at 18 years old. Like it was yesterday. I'm in line. And the older cats, I got the young blood here. It was your first time voting, and there was a camaraderie between my generation, their generation. And so it showed a coalition that they believed in us, that, you know, when it's time to pass the baton, that we'll be ready and next up. And sometimes we, as older people, do not want anything to do with younger people. We sit back and, you know, we take our fists. You know, back in the day, you always saw that old guy with the Bermuda shorts and the dress socks and the shorts, get off my lawn, you kids, you know, waving his fist and everything else. We kind of become that, and we have to reassign our alignment when it comes to the future of our people. We have to realize that any organization that you look back in time was galvanized by younger people. Civil rights movement, certain wars, Africa, South Africa, galvanized by the youth. The youth is the strength that keeps it going. And so the older people got to get a grip and realize, yes, you were younger once, and somebody older helped you. Now is your turn. When you become Obi-Wan Kenobi, you got to pass the saber. So it's just a matter of knowing your place and knowing that the time is now. Not yesterday, not now, but right now.
Absolutely.
Good point.
You know.
Now, I missed the front part of the show, and I know that tonight is going to be not the final, but for a while, Chris is not going to be on the show because he's got some other personal commitments to deal with. And I want to say that thank you for being a leader, a supporter, a great air personality, and standing in when I couldn't be here. And you did a damn good job. And I know you're going to come back.
Well, I thank you for that, Lee, because I'll share something with you and everybody else. I feeling for you so damn much. People thought it was my show.
It was.
They were coming, I mean, they were coming through the comment section I see on my Wednesday and Friday shows. Oh, I didn't know you led this show. I said, no, I'm just filling in. It got to that point.
You're a leader.
No, man, but I deeply appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Dude, I called him up. I say, man, Bass, did I do something on the show? What happened, man? Why you? I called Bass up. I said, man, what's up with that, man? We started talking about Tales from the Crypt, you know.
Yes. Tales from the Hood.
Tales from. Soon as I picked up the phone, Bass said, you will be in. You want the. I can't say the word, Bass. I can't cuss, you know, but
I'll cuss for you.
I say you'll be knee deep.
Right. Clarence Blues the Third. Yes, that's right. From the movie Tales from the Hood.
Yeah, that's what we was talking about. I said, but what, Bass, what did I do? Did I mess up with how? I'm sorry, man. I was feeling blue last week. I couldn't come in, you know. But Bass right off the bat said, he said, I understand. You know, we got
we got a few minutes left on the show this week, and I just want to throw it to everybody, you know, to give parting words. You know, we used to do that when we first started the show. Everybody would leave, give them something to remember them by till we all meet again. So since Mr. Bass, this is your you know, vacation time coming up for a while, would you lead us off, please, sir?
Well, it's very kind. Again, my thanks and love and prayers to all of you, my brothers and broadcasters here on the staff. It made my position filling in for Lee very smooth and very nice, because you get a chance to listen to your brothers and their cadences and their personalities. And as the traffic cop, quote unquote, you don't know how to mix that together. So watching Lee do it, and then Lee siring me to pretty much handle damn near a crazy house is not the easiest thing to do. But, you know, you go in there, you do the best job you can. And it was fun. And so was, as I said in the text to my brothers, and I said publicly, it's not a goodbye. It says, I'll see you later. You know, it's just stepping away for a little bit. I can't wait to come back, but I got to take care of this situation personally. And then once that's taken care of, as Lee said, the chair is always open to come back. To do a show like this from its inception, going back to what Buck has said before, and Dr. Ron was the one that created this program. And so I don't have revisionist history like it was yesterday, covering the election between Trump and Biden to where we are now as a weekly show. That goes back to Dr. Ron. So Dr. Ron deserves all the credit for all of us being here to create the concept, and various incarnations of the show from day one to where we are now is through him. So I give him all the credit he deserves. And then working with the staff on here, I'll share this with everybody before we check out. I've always thought that my contributions could have been stronger for this program.
You said that the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really felt that. I really felt that because in my mind, I'm competing with me. I don't compete with anybody else. In my mind, I got to step up and make myself better. And I've had people reach out to me, no, Bass, you know, you've done a good job, and I never knew that about yourself. I'm just sharing that because, like anything else, you want to leave with something impressionable. My job is to make people think from day one. Just think. I don't care what your position is, as long as you think. And I hope I continue to do that, whether it's this show and other programs that I do. It's to start a dialogue, it's to bond, and to hopefully, break bread with somebody one day, where people, doesn't have to be the same ilk of my mindset. It's just to learn and to grow. And that's all I want to do. And so this show has helped me do that. And so I thank all of you on the panel. I love you more. And to the people out there in the comment section that check us out, I love you more as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bass.
Thank
Professor,
you.
What you want to leave us with this week?
Come back to me.
Buck?
Bass, you know what? I didn't really get to know you until we would talk on the phone. And, I really got to know you a lot better and realize that I really like you. fellow Virgo and the whole nine. I generally get along well with other Virgo men, and Virgo women in general. We have a mutual respect. You know what I mean? Like they call Virgos the Mutual Admiration Club. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But yeah, I was like, okay, this brother's cool. I mean, I didn't quite know how to take you because you really don't talk as much as Ron. Let's just say. On the show, but I got to know. But when I got to talk to you, I was like, okay, yeah. And you know what? And I think that you probably should talk a lot more when you do come back. Just because you have a lot of great insight and a lot of great stuff to say, and you're really smart. And of course, you're a Virgo. You're analytical. Of course, you are. So yeah, we're gonna miss you.
Thank you for that.
We're gonna miss those golden. We're gonna miss those golden pipes too.
Oh man, thank you. Look, and Lee was like, "Look, your ass got to talk more." And we would talk, on the phone and everything else. And see, it's a blessing and curse because I listen a lot. When I listen, I internalize and take it back, and then I talk. But we have so many moving parts during the show. I hope that I try to increase that. But you're right. To come back later on, yeah, it was like, oh man, hey, Negro, you gotta shut up.
Okay, we're waiting.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
Mr. Lee Michaels, what do you want to leave us with this week?
I want to just say I'm so proud of all of you. Love you from the bottom of my heart. I want to say that, Chris, you've done an outstanding job. A lot when I wasn't here, and even when I was here. You're a player. You get it. You're a real radio guy. I mean, if I were to start or launch a new radio station or take on a station, change its format, there's only a handful of people that I would pick. And you would be on my team because I know you get it. You're the kind of broadcaster that you point them in the right direction and you leave them alone. Every now and then you come back and pat them on the back and say, man, good job. Or just go to the left a little bit or go to the right, and they can do it. You don't have to ride herd. You don't need spurs on your boots to kick them in the side to keep them on course. That's a real pro. That's who you are, man. And, continue to stay focused, be strong. And we all go through turbulence and tough times and challenging times in our lives, whether it's with family members, loved ones, neighbors, co-workers, associates. But we have to all learn how to stay focused and be pointed in the right direction and don't let the noise get you off track. And, I have several friends that are going through these type of situations right now, health issues, family members with health issues, and jobs, lack thereof. And it's a challenging time. So I would encourage you, Chris, Bucky, Professor, Mike. What happened to Mike? He dropped out. And Dr. Ron, find some strength because we're going through some tough times. Politically, spiritually, mentally, physically. Stay strong, stay focused, and don't let nothing beat you down. Don't give up. Keep on pushing.
Amen.
Thank you, old guru. Thank you.
Yeah. You ready, Professor?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready. I was just gonna say good night. But I mean, I miss you already, babe. So I mean, it's just straight up. It's just straight up cool. It's like 30 years for us, right? So, and made that commitment. When I talked to you on the phone, I said, look, I mean, when you meet somebody and you have a relationship with a colleague, that's just, everything is just always there. It's just always there. The cool, the smooth, everything. It's just always there. Even, I remember the times when I got fired, right? And you was always there. It was still there. It was everything was cool. When we got together on this, I knew the role that I had to play and I knew where you were going to be at. and all that's just cool. That's just being around some. No, man, that's just I love you, man. Thank you.
Oh man.
Man, great job. I just love you, man. Thank you. I can say a whole lot, but it's nothing better than to say I love you, man. So that's it, man.
I love you more. Thank you, Reggie.
Amen.
Yeah, man. You know, same thing. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, you know, you're supposed to give a person their flowers where they can hear it. And I think that's what we've been doing tonight in the closing comments. And, you know, you and I, just like all of us, are brothers. We're a family, you know, and I can always say that because of Chris Bass, that's how me and Professor got together. Because of Chris Bass, that's how me and Lee Michaels got together. You know, you have connected me to family members that I can't live without. I'm just going to say it like that. You know, all of you all are an important part of my life, including you too, Buck, you know.
and you too, Walona.
But, you know, when you're a family, you know, even if we're not on the air together, I'm still going to call up and get on your damn nerves, you know, just like I do Lee, just like I do Professor. I'm like, hey,
5 times a day.
Because he don't answer the phone on the first 4 times. I have to call the 5th time, then he'll pick up like, what the hell you want? You know, no beep on my hell. Damn. Okay. But, you know, it's all out of love, you know, and it's not about, you know, trying to get into your, you know, your Kool-Aid in a bad way. It's all about like, hey man, I'm here for you, you know,
Right.
and that's the way we all are, and that's the way we all gonna be. You know, when me and the professor started talking, I never will forget, boy, it was so crazy. It's like, yeah, I was there. Me too. We've been in the rooms all through time and just never paid each other no attention.
And that was the connect that I had, because I was talking, for example, between Lee, Ron, and Reggie. I'm like, did I just have this damn conversation before? It's like deja vu all over again. I'm like, wait a minute, y'all motherfuckers need to talk, man, because I was not there, obviously, but to hear the three of you speak, the timeline was so similar. I'm like, you need to talk. Look, here's Reggie's number. You two talk, and then Lee and everybody else. And so you have all these similar backgrounds, to the point, like you said, there were a lot of times you're in the same room at the same time and didn't know each other then.
Yeah. Just didn't pay
because we're all like minds and, you know, in tune to each other, and we can feel it, you know?
Yeah. Well, look, I want to thank you all for tuning in and listening. And as we have poured our hearts out in the closing minutes of the show, like Buck mentioned earlier in the show, I want to give a shout out to all of the people that are struggling, are dealing with hurricanes, trying to, you know, make sure your loved ones are okay. Continue to pray. Continue to keep them lifted up. And like, you know, Lee mentioned earlier, if you got a few dollars, drop it on somebody. Help them out. Help them get to where they're trying to go. You know, they got relief organizations sending money and volunteers all over the world, trying to help Puerto Rico, trying to help Florida. You know, the world is in need of love today. You know, so if we can share some love, you know, whether we know them or not, you know, please continue to share love. And as the professor has been so eloquently waiting to do, let's hear it, Professor.
Good night.